Okay, so we just went over what happens during fed state metabolism right after we've had a meal. Um, Fed state metabolism is dominated by anabolic reactions. Now let's talk about what happens during fasted state metabolism. So just to remind you, fasted state metabolism happens between meals when our nutrient levels in our blood have fallen. And what we're going to do during fasted state metabolism is to tap into those stores that we made when we were in fed state metabolism. And we're going to break those down to free up those molecules for mostly for energy use. Okay, so I want to just start by showing you some of the catabolic pathways that we are going to be utilizing during fasted state metabolism. The first is lipolysis. So basically, just to look at the word roots again, lipo, you might remember, means fat. Lysis means breaking or cutting. So basically, lipolysis means that we are breaking down fats, okay? This diagram shows you the process of lipolysis. You don't really need to know the details. Basically, I just want you to know what the word lipolysis means, sorry. But basically, we have, remember our fats, most of our fats are triglycerides. So that's the state that they're stored in. We have enzymes called lipases that are going to break those down into our component parts, glycerol and our fatty acid tails. Glycerol can enter glycolysis. Fatty acids are going to be broken down into these 2 carbon units called acyl units through a process called beta oxidation. Okay. And then those acyl units will be converted to acetyl coenzyme A, which you may or may not remember from your previous education, enters the citric acid cycle. Okay. I do want to say, I have mentioned this before, that when we have like a buildup of acetyl-CoA, which can happen if this beta oxidation process happens more quickly than the citric acid cycle, then we convert those excess acetyl coenzyme A molecules into ketone bodies, okay? So ketone bodies are acidic and they can throw off the acidity of your blood, of your body. So this is the cause of ketoacidosis. Quick review question, where are fats stored? See if you remember. Okay, so fats are stored in fat tissue, adipose tissue. All right, moving on. Our next catabolic pathway that we are going to look at is glycogenolysis. Okay, again, looking at word roots, we have glycogen here and then lysis here. So basically, glycogenolysis is the breakdown of glycogen. Okay, remember that glycogen is a polymer of glucose. So the process of glycogenolysis is basically the breakdown of glucose into its component parts, the breakdown of glycogen into its component glucose molecules. It's actually mostly glucose 6-phosphate because you can't really see it in the figure here, but there's a phosphate between each of the glucose molecules as they are strung together. So glycogenolysis results in about 90% production of glucose 6-phosphate, which you may or may not remember from your past, enters glycolysis, which is the pathway that's going to eventually lead to ATP production. Our remaining 10% of our product from glycogenolysis is glucose, which can be converted to glucose 6-phosphate. And then in that way, it will it will be able to enter glycolysis and lead to ATP production. Quick question, see if you can remember where in the body glycogen is stored. Okay, so hopefully you remember glycogen is stored in the liver and in the muscle. Those are kind of the main places. Okay, third and last main catabolic pathway that I want to introduce you to is a pathway called gluconeogenesis. Okay, so looking at the word root again, gluco refers to glucose. Okay, neo means new, and then genesis, as you might remember, means making, right? So basically, we're making new glucose. So gluconeogenesis is basically, it's a pathway that allows us to make glucose out of other molecule types. Okay, and those other molecule types can enter they enter the gluconeogenesis pathway at different points along the pathway. So what are these other molecule types? Amino acids, pyruvate, lactate, glycerol. Okay, and you can kind of see a couple of them anyway, depicted here in this diagram here. Okay, once we have glucose, we can then phosphorylate it, and that can enter glycolysis, and then that can give us ATP.